Your automatic transmission is not wearing out from age or mileage. It is wearing out because nobody ever told you what not to do with it. Manufacturers write owner's manuals to protect their warranty liability, not to protect your drivetrain. Service recommendations in those books are calibrated to the length of a warranty period, not the life of the car. After 22 years pulling transmission pans and rebuilding valve bodies, I have watched the same 10 habits quietly destroy the same cars over and over, and every single failure was completely preventable. The number one on this list is something most drivers do every single week because a manufacturer told them it was fine. By the time we get there, you will understand exactly what that manufacturer's advice has been costing you. And the habit I'm going to tell you to quit takes no tools, no parts, and no money to fix. Number 10. Shifting into park before the car fully stops. Most drivers have done this without registering it as a problem. The car is still rolling at 2 or 3 miles per hour, and they drop the selector into park because they are close enough to where they want to be. Nothing sounds wrong in the moment, so nothing feels wrong. What is actually happening inside the transmission is mechanical, and it is not subtle. The parking pal is a small, precision-machined metal pin that drops into a notched ring gear to lock the output shaft and keep the car from rolling. That pin is designed to engage against a stationary gear. When you shift to park while the car is still moving, the pal is thrown against a rotating gear under load. According to the Automatic Transmission Rebuilders Association, parking pal damage is one of the most common causes of premature transmission failure in vehicles under 80,000 miles, and it traces directly to this habit in the majority of documented cases. The fix costs nothing and takes 3 extra seconds. Complete stop, foot on the brake, car not moving, then park. That is the entire correction. Number 9. Coasting downhill in neutral to save fuel. This one gets passed around online as a smart driving tip, and it is wrong in almost every way that matters. The idea is that dropping into neutral while coasting lets the engine idle, which reduces fuel consumption. On any modern fuel-injected vehicle, that logic runs backwards, and this is exactly the kind of thing manufacturers and driving schools never bother to correct because it does not affect the warranty. When the transmission is in drive and your foot is off the accelerator, the engine management system detects that the drivetrain is spinning the engine and cuts fuel injection almost entirely. Drop a comment below and be honest. How many years did you drive this way before you found out it was backwards? Because what happens the moment you shift to neutral is that the ECU sees a disconnected load and immediately supplies fuel to keep the engine from stalling at idle. You are burning more fuel than you would in drive, absorbing unnecessary shift cycles in the transmission every time you move that selector, and giving up the engine braking that was slowing the car for free. 3 things wrong with one habit. Number 8. Shifting from drive to reverse before the car completely stops. This one kills transmissions quietly and early. The driver is maneuvering in a parking lot, still rolling slowly forward, and throws it into reverse to save a second rather than stopping and then shifting. It feels like nothing, because nothing audible happens. The bands and clutch packs that manage transmission shifts are engineered to engage against a stopped drivetrain. When you shift into reverse against a drivetrain still moving in the forward direction, those components absorb the directional change as impact shock, and they absorb it every single time the habit runs. Over 22 years, I have opened hundreds of transmission cases. The ones showing premature clutch glazing and band wear before 90,000 miles share a pattern that shows up in the service history almost every time. A driver who used the gear selector as a substitute for the brake pedal. The damage does not come all at once. It accumulates shift by shift until one day the transmission starts slipping on the 2 to 3 upshift, and the owner cannot understand why a 71,000-mile car needs a $3,147 rebuild. That is why. Number 7. Using the gas pedal to hold position on an incline. At a red light on a hill, a lot of drivers hold position by feathering the accelerator in drive rather than moving their foot to the brake. The car stays put, feels controlled, and nothing sounds wrong. What is actually happening is that the torque converter and the transmission's holding clutches are being forced to slip against each other continuously to keep the vehicle from rolling back. That sustained slip generates heat, and heat is the #1 enemy of automatic transmission fluid and every friction surface it is supposed to protect. 2 Camrys came through the shop the same month, both at 91,000 miles, both belonging to daily commuters on hilly routes. One driver had used the brake at every incline stop for the life of the car. The other had made a habit of feathering the gas. When I serviced both transmissions, the fluid in the first was clean, reddish pink, normal in every way. The fluid in the second had gone dark amber, carried a faint burnt smell when I cracked the pan, and showed early glazing on the friction surfaces when I pulled the clutch packs. Same car, same mileage. One habit separated them. Number 6. Towing without servicing the transmission first. The automatic transmission in a half-ton truck or a midsize SUV is built to handle a rated tow load, but that rating assumes the transmission fluid is fresh and the cooling capacity is functioning correctly. Most drivers who tow seasonally treat the transmission service as optional, or they go years without doing it at all. A mail carrier outside Dallas brought his 2017 Tacoma in after a summer that included 5 weekend camping trips pulling a loaded trailer. The truck had 67,000 miles and had never had the transmission serviced. When I dropped the pan, the fluid was dark brown with a distinct burnt smell and fine metallic particles suspended in it. Friction modifier broken down, clutch material beginning to show in the drain. The repair to recondition what was salvageable cost him $2,619. A full transmission fluid service before towing season at an independent shop runs $160 to $180. Towing accelerates heat buildup inside the transmission faster than almost any other normal driving condition, and degraded fluid cannot absorb that heat the way fresh fluid can. Service it before the season starts, not after the damage is done. That one costs money because the driver skipped maintenance. What comes next costs money because most drivers are doing something actively wrong every single time they get stuck. Number 5. Rapid cycling between drive and reverse to free a stuck car. When a car gets stuck in snow or mud, the instinct is to rock it out by alternating quickly between drive and reverse. Forward a few inches, back a few inches, repeat until it breaks free. It feels like working with the car. It is working against the transmission. According to the American Automobile Association, drivetrain damage from improper stuck vehicle extraction is among the most commonly misunderstood sources of transmission wear, particularly in vehicles under 60,000 miles where owners assume the drivetrain is still fully protected. Every time you shift from drive to reverse while the car is still moving, even slightly, the transmission absorbs a directional shock across the clutch packs and bands. Doing it repeatedly in rapid succession compounds that shock into a pattern of stress the transmission was never rated to handle. If the car is stuck, shift to the lowest available drive gear, apply steady moderate throttle, and let traction control work. If that does not free it, a $172 tow is not a failure. A $4,213 transmission rebuild is. Those two habits come from emergencies and inconvenience. The next one comes from something drivers do on purpose, on dry pavement, thinking it is fine. Number 4. Launching hard from a stop repeatedly. Aggressive launches. Flooring the accelerator from a dead stop, especially as a regular habit. Put the torque converter and the forward clutch pack under immediate maximum load before fluid has fully pressurized the clutch circuit. A single hard launch is not catastrophic. A pattern of them is. 2 F-150s, both with 6R80 6-speed automatics, both at 58,000 miles. One owner drove conservatively, smooth acceleration, normal commuting. The other had a habit of hard launches at intersections, described it as just how he drove. The conservative truck's transmission fluid was clean and within normal spec when I serviced it. The other truck's fluid had degraded significantly ahead of schedule, and when I inspected the forward clutch pack, I could see early wear on the friction material that should not be present at that mileage. The transmission was not rebuilt yet, but it was on a shorter clock than it should have been. The difference between those two trucks came down entirely to what happened in the first 2 seconds after the light turned green. Quick reminder, if this is saving you money, hit that subscribe button now. It helps us keep making videos like this. Number 3. Ignoring early warning signs from the transmission. The transmission communicates before it fails. Most drivers either do not recognize the signals or talk themselves out of acting on them. After 22 years, I have had this conversation more times than I can count. The owner comes in for something unrelated. I ask about the transmission, and they describe a faint shudder at highway speed that comes and goes, or a slight hesitation going into gear on cold mornings, or a slip on the 2 to 3 upshift that only happens occasionally. Every one of those descriptions is a transmission flagging a problem that is still addressable. A slipping upshift means clutch material is losing grip. A cold start hesitation points to a valve body issue or degraded fluid struggling to pressurize correctly. A torque converter shudder at cruise speed is a friction surface problem that almost always gets worse, not better. I have pulled transmissions that were at the edge of repairable, and in nearly every one of those cases, the owner told me the symptoms started months earlier. Months of a $390 repair turning into a $274 one because the signal got ignored. We are down to the final 2, and number 1 has been waiting since the opening of this video. It is the habit manufacturers explicitly told you was acceptable, printed it in the owner's manual, backed it with engineering language, and handed it to you with the keys. By the time I finish explaining it, you will understand why that advice was never written to protect your transmission. Number 2. Using the wrong transmission fluid. Every transmission is engineered around a specific fluid, not a category of fluid, a specific formulation with a specific friction modifier package, a specific viscosity profile, and a specific additive chemistry. A retired teacher from Phoenix brought in her 2015 Accord with 54,000 miles, complaining of a subtle shudder during light acceleration at highway speed. She had been getting the transmission serviced regularly, which was exactly the right instinct. But a quick lube shop had been refilling it with a generic multi-vehicle ATF instead of Honda's specified DW1 fluid. The technician told her any quality ATF would work. It does not work. Honda's DW1 is formulated with a friction modifier package matched to the torque converter clutch and the clutch packs in that specific transmission. A generic multi-vehicle fluid uses a different modifier profile. Not wrong for every application, but wrong for that one. After 3 services with the incorrect fluid, her torque converter clutch was shuddering under light load because the friction coefficient the clutch was designed for no longer matched what the fluid was delivering. The repair to flush the system, correct the fluid specification, and address the early converter wear cost her $1,893. The correct fluid at the correct service interval would have cost a fraction of that. Every manufacturer specifies a transmission fluid for a reason. That reason is chemistry, not marketing, and the quick lube shop that tells you otherwise is the one that profits when the chemistry fails. Number 1 is right here. And before I tell you what it is, I want you to think about the last time anyone told you your transmission needed attention. Number 1, trusting that lifetime transmission fluid never needs changing. Open the owner's manual for almost any vehicle sold in the last 20 years and look up the transmission fluid service interval. A significant number of them will say something like filled for life or no scheduled maintenance required under normal operating conditions. I have read those lines in Honda manuals, GM manuals, Toyota manuals, and Ford manuals. And after 22 years draining transmission fluid for a living, I am going to tell you exactly what lifetime means in that sentence. It means the length of the powertrain warranty. It means the period of time the manufacturer is financially on the hook for the transmission, not the period of time you will own the car, not the period of time the fluid can actually protect the clutch packs, and not the period of time the transmission is capable of lasting. Automatic transmission fluid breaks down. The base oil oxidizes under heat. The friction modifiers that allow the clutch packs to engage cleanly lose their effectiveness over time and mileage. The detergent additives that keep the valve body passages clear deplete gradually with every heat cycle. None of that stops happening because a manual says lifetime. What stops is the manufacturer's obligation to pay for the consequences. Think about the fluid sitting in your transmission right now. If the car has more than 60,000 miles on it and the fluid has never been changed, there is a reasonable chance it is dark. It has lost a significant portion of its additive package, and the clutch packs have been operating in progressively degraded lubrication for years with no warning light to tell you. The transmission has no sensor that reads fluid quality. It cannot alert you when the fluid is tired. It just works harder, runs hotter, and wears faster, until one day it does not work at all. I have drained fluid out of transmissions with 80,000 miles that looked like it came out of an engine that had been run without an oil change for 2 years. Dark, thinned out, smelling of burnt friction material, carrying fine metallic debris. That fluid came out of a car whose owner had followed the manufacturer's maintenance schedule exactly. The schedule simply did not include the transmission. Change the fluid. If the car has more than 60,000 miles on it and it has never been done, do it now. If a shop tells you the fluid looks fine from the dipstick, find a shop willing to drop the pan and show you what is actually in there. The fluid that protects against a $4,558 to $6,730 transmission overhaul costs between $138 and $215 to replace. That is the calculation the manufacturer chose not to put in the owner's manual. If you want to know the 5 fluids your car is burning through right now that most mechanics never mention, click the video on the left. I will see you there.